Hey Doug, what you doing?
Hey Ellen. So today we are planting cover crops, fall cover crops, into a bed that is planted in summer cover crop of buckwheat. This is the winter kill mix of oats and peas and radish, and I added some buckwheat in here just because it is pretty warm still, so the buckwheat will grow up a bit. So that's the mix of them. And so this is the buckwheat here standing. It's just past flowering and making seeds now. I would say the better time to do this would be when it was making just at its flowering stage. But this is the time we're at right now. So you can see the seeds starting to form here in the buckwheat.
So this is September 11th. When was this planted?
We planted this on mid-July. The buckwheat was planted.
So how much time do you need for buckwheat to grow to do any good in your garden?
It grows really quickly in the warm weather, so it's a good, if you're in between plantings. We had scallions in here that we harvested in June, middle of June, and before we harvested the scallions, broadcast the buckwheat over it, and then pulling up the scallions, the buckwheat seed fell into the holes and rose up, and in a couple of weeks it was covered and covering the soil, the small plants, and then they were making flower within 4 weeks.
So if I have a few more weeks of warm weather, it's good enough to plant buckwheat before I put in my
I would, at this point, it being the second week in September, mix in the buckwheat with oats and peas and radish, or your other fall cover crops, because it's warm, but it's going to start getting cool. The nights are getting cooler, and so the buckwheat will grow, but the oats are going to come up when it gets a little bit cooler. So it's a good kind of having this mix. It's like a succession. You're planting a succession of plants that are going to follow each other and support each other. So this mix is kind of a good, late summer, early fall kind of, good thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to broadcast the seed right over the bed where the buckwheat is standing. And then I'm going to use the broad fork just to crimp the buckwheat. I'm going to use the broad fork to bend the buckwheat, crimp it, so that it'll bend the stem and it'll basically die and decompose, just as you see here. So next to you, that's a bed that I just did, bending the buckwheat and broad forking. So this way, with the broad fork, just loosening up the soil, letting the oat seeds fall in to the holes that the broad fork is making, and also just knocking down the buckwheat as I do that. So a couple of different things.
Okay, then what are you going to do next?
So after that, after I go through with that, then I'm just going to take straddling the bed. The bed's right here. Just going to kind of pull the buckwheat into the middle, and as I'm doing that, I'm kind of bringing up the soil, massaging the soil a little bit, so that the oat seed is falling into the cracks that I made with the broad fork and the holes that the buckwheat is making. So you can see I'm just pulling it all here, kind of doing some more bending and cracking of the stem, and leaving it right on top, leaving the buckwheat right on top to act as a mulch, protecting the soil, protecting the seed. so that, and the seed will grow up. This will decompose and dry out, and then the oats will grow up right through the mulch. And so there won't be any bare soil at any point.
So you don't have to worry about the buckwheat plants getting in the way of the other seeds coming up?
No, because at this point I'm stressing them out a lot right now by pulling them up. So they're not gonna, even if they do reestablish, I mean, if they reestablish, it's fine. It's buckwheat. They're not gonna outcompete the oats. So they're here, and by lifting them up a little bit is a little bit of a stress on them. So it's gonna stop them from growing and give the oats, you know, a good kind of head start to start growing with them. So.
It's not too thick to inhibit the...
No, I mean, it looks thick, but there's a lot of water in these plants still. So as they sit here in the sun for another few days, they'll dry out, and we'll take a look in a few days and see how they're doing.
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome, Ellen.